I've been asking you these questions. I'll ask you today this question again. I'm gonna go back to the first week of this series, and I ask you, what is peace for you today? What is peace in your home, in your life, in the circumstances that you're going through today? What does peace look like? What does hope look like in what is going on in your life today? What is hope? As you go through your work days, work weeks, as you come home to the different situations and circumstances, the dynamic at home, what does peace and hope look like? How does joy look like? I'm sure there is one of our family, the family that attends here, the church. One of our members, her name is Donna Spark. I was with her this week, and she's in hospice care. Donna, we were with you, with your family. But the question is, when life is tough and the circumstances of our lives that does matter knocks at the door as we're living through difficulties of life, things that matter, not some concepts out there. No, I'm talking about hospice care. I'm talking about cancer. I'm talking about divorce. I'm talking about fired, no money in a checking account, no way out. What does hope means to you? What does peace means to you? How do you have joy in your life in the midst of that and so much more? In your life right now, what is joy? Genesis chapter 50, verse 20 says this: "You intended to harm me, but God intended all for good." I will never forget the conversation I had with this lady a long time ago in my first ministry. And in that moment that we were having that conversation, she had lost most of her family in that same month. And she looked at me and she quoted this, not in these specific words, but she's like, "What the world has meant it to harm me, I know that God's gonna do something good in it." Do you believe that whatever you're going through in your life at this moment, joy is possible? We're going to explore the life of Joseph today in the Old Testament. And we're not talking about Jesus' dad. We're talking about Joseph of the Old Testament. And Joseph's obedience to God's plan, even in adversity, opened up a door for joy in his life. Through pain and unfulfilled dreams, Joseph trusted God. And that journey of Joseph, it is something we ought to pay attention on today. And so I'm going to start reading a little bit about his life. Maybe you're not familiar with the story of Joseph. Let me give you a little like elevator. He said, had a dad. His dad is Jacob. Right, son of the promise, is a special guy. It had several kids from different wives for different reasons. And then there's this one kid, there's the kid of the promise, Joseph. The mom, Jacob, loved his mom a lot. And then so this kid was kind of special to the dad. And everybody knew, the brothers knew it. I'm gonna read about it. And then the brother planned to kill him. And instead, one of the brothers, the oldest, said like, instead of killing the kid, let's sell him. So they sold him. He went to Egypt, and in Egypt he went through some circumstances that we're going to talk about it today. And in the end, he found, in the end, on how he followed Jesus through his life, he was able to find joy. So we're going to go through that. So I'll just give you an elevator version right there. But here's the start of that story. Genesis chapter 37, verses 1 and 5 says this: "So Jacob settled again in the land of Canaan, where his father had lived as a foreigner. This is the account of Jacob and his family. When Joseph was 17 years old, he often tended his father's flock." Do you know how to change the word flocks there to sheep? Like, it's to say ships, but I can't pronounce ship. So I went and I found a translation that said flocks. Here you go. Welcome. Because I don't want you thinking that he was taking care of his dad's sheep in the ocean, because there was no ocean, here's the desert. He worked for his half-brothers and sons of his father's wives, Bilhah and Zilpah. But Joseph reported his father some of the bad things his brother were doing. How many of you like that kind of brother? We had one of those in my house. It was my sister. Me and my brother hated her. Oh, man, we hated it. It's a joke. We didn't hate her. It's a joke. No, we did. We did. Jacob loved Joseph more than any of his other children because Joseph had been born to him in his old age. So one day, Jacob had a special gift made to Joseph, a beautiful robe. But his brothers hated Joseph because their father loved him more than the rest of them. They couldn't say a kind word to him. One night, Joseph had a dream, and when he told his brothers about it, they hated him even more. The justice is this. I joke about Joseph telling on his brother, but here's the thing we don't like in life. What his brothers didn't like is the fact that they got caught, right? We like to do stuff that is wrong and hide it, but when someone reveals it, when we are kept accountable, we hate people that keep us accountable, right? That shows us, hey, listen, there are some things that you're doing that is wrong that needs to be changed. That's part of righteousness, is accountability. Is to know that you have that you have something that you have done wrong, and that people come to you and say, hey, some part of your life has to change, should be appreciated, not hated. But here's a different story. Joseph is trying to tell his brothers, listen, you guys are doing some messed up stuff, you got to stop it. And instead of the brothers listening to the young bro, to the 17-year-old kid, they were like, we hate you, we want to kill you. Here's the thing that I have said many people, and I repeat it here. Blessings follow obedience. The reasons why his dad loved him so much, it is because of obedience. And it's not different with God. If you want blessings from God, obedience must start. It starts with obedience. Blessings follow obedience. But it's not only that. When you are blessed by people because of your obedience, right? When you're blessed by God by obedience, when people look at that, what do they do to us who are blessed? They envy us. They're jealous at us. They hate us. And Joseph, so he was not only blessed by his dad for the obedience, but he was blessed by God with dreams. And God gave him this amazing, great dream that one day he would be the king. He would be the master. He will rule over everyone. So Joseph had a dream of greatness. But his life took some unexpected turn. He faced betrayal by his brothers, and he was sold into slavery. Can you imagine, put yourself, and maybe you are there right now. We have these dreams. We have this expectation about how life ought to be. We have this expectation about what God is going to do. You know exactly how you want it all to happen in your life. But then there are some unexpected turns that you didn't see it coming. This is true of Joseph's life, as it is true to us. And I think that's why his story is relevant to us today. So look what happened on verses 18 through 38 of chapter 37. When Joseph's brothers saw him coming, they recognized him in the distance. As he approached, they made plans to what? To kill him. Here comes the dreamer. Here comes the dreamer, they said. Come on, let's kill him and throw him into one of these cisterns. When we can tell our fathers a wild animal has eaten him, then we'll see what becomes of his dreamers. Then let's give him what he deserves. So when Joseph arrived, his brothers ripped off his beautiful robe he was wearing. Then they grabbed him and threw him into the cistern. Now the cistern was empty. There was no water in it. You can want to throw me in a cistern? That's great. That's fine. But you want to hear the splash like, and you're like, okay, I can swim for a little while. But when you got in the cistern and you hear it's like, boom, that's not good. How many of us find ourselves in the bottom of a cistern with no water in it, in the circumstances of life? How many of us have been betrayed by friends, by family, by those who are closest to us, by those who we trust in our workplace, by even people that are way beyond us? We trust them, and instead of caring for us, loving us, instead of expanding on the blessings of God in our lives, they're ready to throw us in the cistern and see us die. But there was one guy in the family who had a little bit of a sense. His name was Judah, and he said to his brothers, what will we gain by killing our brother? We'd have to cover up the crime. Instead of hurting him, let's sell him to those Ishmaelites, traitors. After all, he's our brother, our own flesh and blood. And his brother agreed. So when the Ishmaelites, who were Midianites, traders, came by, Joseph's brothers pulled him out of the cistern and sold him to them for 20 pieces of silver. And the traders took him to Egypt. A side note that is important from this text is that on the 21st century, we are always putting a price in the heads of people. Price that are based on your expectations for their lives and what they should do and what they shouldn't do. Life has no price. It's precious and must be protected at all time. It doesn't matter what's going on in your personal life. Life must be protected. You don't put a price on it and celebrate it out. Joseph's dreams was shattered. He found himself in a foreign land, as being a slave in Egypt. The beginning of his journey was filled with pain and uncertainty, much like the times in our lives when our own dream seems elusive and our joy seems to be so distant. It feels so far away from us. When our dreams are shattered, when our plans are destroyed, joy seems to slip through our fingers. The pain of unfulfilled dreams is a universal theme that resonates through the scriptures, to the pages of the Bible, serving as a heartbreaking reminder of our human experience. If you are living life on planet Earth, part of the heartbreaking, it is the unfulfilled dreams that we all have. But it's not only Joseph, just to continue to explain, it's not only Joseph that lived these unfulfilled dreams in their lives. We do too, and so did King David. You remember the story of King David, right? He was just hanging out at his home, just doing what kids did back in the day, taking care of some flocks, right? Not sheep, flocks. Right, and they were taking care of the flocks. Samuel will come and say, like, boy, you're going to be the next king. And he's like, oh, I like that. Who doesn't want to be the next king, right? So he's like, you're going to be the next king. So David's like, okay, I like that. I like that promise of God to my life. Samuel came and said, God made you a king. You will be king. How many of us goes to God's story, to the Bible, and we read God's promises to us, and we're like, I like that. I appropriate of that. I'm going to live that out. But here's the thing. It took years before David gained those promises of God in his life. It took years before those dreams, those plans were fulfilled. And in the midst of it, he said something like this. In Psalm 13, he said this, oh Lord, how long will you forget me? How long will you forget the promises you made to me? Forever? How long will you look the other way? You came home to my house the other day and you said I would be king. I didn't plan that. You planned that for my life. But now I'm here. I am a promise. I'm supposed to be the king. But a king that is here now is trying to kill me. So I'm in the middle of the mountains hiding it away. How long will it take for the dreams to come true? How long will you look the other way? How long must I struggle with anguish in my soul, with sorrow in my heart every day? How many of you can identify with those words from David? I know there is some part of your life today, right here, right now, that joy makes no sense in it. It's all you want. But if you say you have joy there, you're like, whoa, no. What I do have in that specific area of my life is anguish, struggle, sorrow. That's where my heart is. And then David goes, how long will my enemy have the upper hand? Can you identify with these words? These words echo the despair felt when dreams seem distant and unattainable. The ache of unfulfilled dreams tests our faith, leading us at times to take matters to our own hand. And the decisions that are born out of desperation bring their own set of challenges and all kinds of complications to our personal life instead of the joy that we think that we can bring it on, that we're looking into attaining. In our own lives, we may encounter moments when dreams slip through our fingers, leaving us contending with uncertainties. And perhaps like Joseph, we face betrayal and unexpected turns that challenge the very core of our beliefs. And I think it is during these times that the biblical truth serves as a beacon of hope to you and I, illustrating that even in the darkest valley of unmet dreams, God's plan unfolds in ways we cannot fathom. I think we followers of Christians give up on Christ too soon. I think at times when it is the darkest moments of our, that's when we should be holding on to Him the hardest. But it seems like that's when we give up on Him the most. Imagine a person who, like Joseph, aspired to achieve greatness in his life. Maybe it's you here this morning. Maybe you aspire to reach greatness in your relationships, in your financial life, in your physical personal life, or maybe it's in your professional life like Joseph. Joseph had a commitment to be great in his professional life, and he worked diligently, and he envisioned the future with success and fulfillment. However, the circumstances took him to a completely different thing. He faced some setbacks and some professional betrayals that got him in jail. How many of us are like Joseph? We have these great expectations. We have this idea of success and fulfillment, but then we face some setbacks and we face some betrayals, and instead of holding on to God, we give up on God. And you're talking about unexpected turns. I mean, Joseph's story takes some exciting and some unexpected turn leading to eventual triumph for sure, but those personal struggles can become a stepping stone toward the great purpose for our lives as it was for his, and we think we need to understand that. The pain of unfulfilled dreams, much like the refining fire that shapes metal, molds, and strengthens our character. I know this is a hard lesson for us to process and want and embrace, but reality is the pain of unfulfilled dreams, much like fire refines and shapes metal. It shapes and strengthens and molds our character. And it is your character and it is my character God is after. Through faith and through resilience and steadfast belief in God's ultimate plan, individuals can find peace in the midst of adversity, can find joy in the midst of adversity, trusting that their dreams, though delayed, are not denied. Why is it that every time we are going through some struggle, we always think that God is saying no? Why is it can be that God is saying, not yet, you're just quite not ready for it? In the tapestry of biblical stories and personal stories, the pain of unfulfilled dreams become a thread that weaves through the human experience in connecting us through the struggles of those who came before us and leaving an example to those who will be after us. It is the story of those from the past that encourage and inspire us, and it is our story that will encourage and inspire people in the future. It is in the intersection of faith and perseverance and divine intervention that the resolution to those challenges unfolds, reminding us that the journey, though filled with pain and suffering, ultimately leads to a destination where dreams find their fulfillment in joy. Yes, joy. Joy that Paul tells us in chapter 4, verse 4 and 5 of Philippians. Always be full of joy in the Lord. I say it again, rejoice. Let everyone see that you are considerate in all you do. Remember, the Lord is coming soon. The biblical definition of joy must be ingrained in our mind. So here's the three languages that we usually use at the church, right? Greek, Hebrew, and English, right? Well, for some it's broken English, but it's still English, right? In the Greek, the word joy is the word chara, which encompasses the idea of gladness and delight. I don't know about you, but the word gladness and delights happen in a specific place. It doesn't happen in the mind, it happens in the heart. In the Hebrew, the word is shemash, which means signifying a sense of happiness and rejoicing. Once again, happiness and rejoice doesn't happen in the brain, doesn't happen in the guts, it happens in the heart. English dictionary says that joy is a profound feeling of happiness and contentment, often arising from a sense of well-being or an appreciation of life. Well-being and appreciation of life, it doesn't happen in the head, it doesn't happen in the guts, it doesn't happen in your hands, it happens in your heart. Joy is a work of God in your heart. And nothing like obedience to bring joy into your heart. Joy in obedience, it is crucial. Blessings follow obedience. And joy is one of those blessings in obedience. And that's what Joseph teaches us. Despite the difficult circumstances, Joseph reminds us. Joseph reminded about the faithfulness of God. That's why he reminds us of. So despite all the circumstances, the difficulties that he faced, Joseph remained faithful to God by choosing obedience and steadfastness. He is an example of obedience, a key ingredient in finding joy. You want to find joy, you have to live obedient life towards God. Joseph's trust in God allowed him to flourish even in a foreigner land. He found favor in the eyes of the Egyptian master Potiphar, and was entrusted with great responsibility. Joseph's obedience to God's plan, even in the midst of adversity, pain, and suffering, opened up the door of joy to his heart. Look what happened, chapter 39, verses 1 and 4. When Joseph was taken to Egypt by the Ishmaelites, traders, he was purchased by Potiphar, an Egyptian officer. Potiphar was captain of the guard for Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. The Lord was with Joseph, so he succeeded in everything he did as he served in the home of his Egyptian master. Potiphar noticed this and realized that the Lord was with Joseph, giving him success in everything he did. This pleased Potiphar. So he soon made Joseph his personal attendant. He put him in charge of his entire household and everything he owned. In our 21st century lives, joy is not just a distant concept from the pages in the Bible. It is an experience we all seek. It is something that we want. That's why we love Christmas. It's because we say it's a joyful time of the year. We want that joy. But joy can be defined in our lives as moments of genuine happiness and deep-seated contentment that comes from knowing we are walking in God's purpose as Joseph did. Joseph's joy didn't come by the things that was going on around him. It was by understanding that he was doing what God had for him to do. Joy doesn't come because you have gifts under a tree. Joy in the Christian life can be defined as a moment of genuine happiness and deep-seated contentment that comes from knowing that we are walking in God's purpose through obedience and a realization that our journey, even in challenging times, is meaningful and purposeful because God has a plan for us. So to build on the biblical foundation of joy, I love C.S. Lewis. I don't know how many of you guys have read C.S. Lewis books. There's his autobiography called Surprised by Joy. He takes us into his journey of wrestling with unfulfilled desires and quest for transcendent joy. I think we are all, every human being, is one thing we want in our lives is the word joy. We want to be joyful people, right? We see people with joy and we covet there in a good way. So C.S. Lewis, a young man, on his youthful, he was an atheist guy, right? He was an atheist. He thought that joy could be found right here and right now in the fulfilling of his desire. And he found out that the worldly pursuits were not giving him any joy. Academic pursuit was not giving him joy. Money wasn't giving him joy. And being famous wasn't giving him joy. So in the midst of this intellectual pursuit and worldly pleasures, he encountered a deep-seated longing for something more, a desire that transcended the temporal and pointed toward the divine reality. He was like, man, I'm smart. I have all these things around me, and the more that I search for joy, the more I understand that this joy, it transcends me. It is something that is beyond me. It is something that must be obtained by a divine source. This is from an atheist. So in his book, Surprised by Joy, in his autobiography, he says this, I quote, "All joy reminds it is never a possession, always a desire for something longer ago, farther away, or is still about to be. This moving observation echoes the biblical understanding that our earthly aspirations, while valid, are ultimately incomplete without a connection to the eternal. There is no joy outside of Christ. The pain of unfulfilled dreams, which steal our joy, that still our hope, as Lewis suggests, is not merely a result of unattaining goals, but points us towards a deeper spiritual fulfillment, which can only be found in obedience to God, as Joseph demonstrates to us. It all invites us, each one of us individually, to recognize how transitioning the nature of the world pursuits are, acknowledging the inheritance, struggles, and disappointments that accompany the pursuits that we have right here and right now. Yet, in the midst of these, there exists a divine undercurrent of redemptive thread that waves through the pain, offering us a promise of grace, transforming and a joy that surpasses the temporal desires that we have. Joy is a transcendent thing. It is this divine undercut, redemptive plan of God to you and I. And it is joy that helps us in the midst of the pain and the suffering, not to fall into temptation, but to hold on to Christ when the world try to tempt us. Joy helps us endure the tests of temptation. How many of us, when life is dark, that's when we fall the most, that's when we sin the most, that's where we let go of our faith the most. It's when life is hard, when life is difficult, when people disappoint us, when we believe that the world is disappointing us, when we believe that there is no hope for us, there is no happiness to be achieved. That's when we let go and we fall into temptation. And that's when life gets worse, but not for Joseph. And not for us followers of Jesus. We ought to hold on to joy, to hold on to Christ, because it is joy that helps us endure the test of temptation. Joseph was a very handsome man, supposedly. He looked like me, well-built young man. It's a joke. No, it is not. And Potiphar's wife soon began to look at him lustfully. And she's like, come sleep with me, Joseph. Come sleep with me, Joseph. And look what Joseph does. But Joseph refused. He told her, my master trusts me with everything in his entire household. No one here has more authority than I do. He has held back nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How could I do such a thing, such a wicked thing? It would be a greater sin against God. She kept putting pressure on Joseph day in and day out, day after day. But he refused to sleep with her, and he kept out of her way as much as possible. I am afraid that we, guys and girls today, when we are tempted to get our dreams fulfilled with sinful things out there, instead of refusing, we fall right into it because we believe that sin will bring the fulfillment and the joy that we want. Joseph's journey, marked by an unwavering faith and moral fortitude, encountered a formidable trial during the test of temptation. In the court of Potiphar, the worldly seduction, it was like, come on, come on, come on. But Joseph, he stood resolute in his commitment to righteousness, to a commitment to do what is right. Remember him telling on his brothers? It was not a commitment on telling on his brother and getting his brother in trouble. It was about integrity and righteousness. He was the same then as he is here. The seductive advances of Potiphar's wife sought to undermine his integrity, but Joseph fueled himself with the flame that comes from the guidance of God to know that he a righteous person, that he ought to do what is right. And he resisted the flame of sin. Choosing the path of righteousness in face of temptation proved to be a costly decision to Joseph. See? Most of us, we are ready to pay the price for the sins we commit, but we are not ready to pay the cost of the decisions of doing what is right. Choosing the path of righteousness in the face of temptation proved to be costly for him. He was falsely accused. He found himself incarcerated, his freedom unjustly stripped away. Yet, even in cold confines of a prison, Joseph's spirit remained unbroken. His joy persisted as a testament to the depth of his connection with God and the unwavering belief in the righteousness of his choices. I love this part about Joseph. He resisted sin, the temptation, and it cost him. He went to jail, and even though he were going to jail for doing nothing wrong, he still rejoices it. How many of us don't want to stand up for what is right? We want to stand for what is going on in the world out there because we think it is going to cost us less, but ended up costing us more in the end. God calls us to be like Joseph, to stand for what is right. It doesn't matter what the cost is. You stand for, go to jail, so be it. You stand there. The joy persistent as a testament of the depth of his connection is the same joy that is to be persistent in you, depending on your connection with God. The importance of joy in the midst of temptation becomes apparent in Joseph's story. Joy is, in this context, is not a fleeting emotion dependent on external circumstances, but a profound inner state anchored in a spiritual resilience which is sustained by God himself. Joseph's joy comes from his conscious alignment with God's way, serving as a source of strength that withstood the storm of adversity into victory. In the darkness of being sold by his brother, being found in a strange nation, and being lied about and tempted, in the darkness of a prison cell, Joseph's joy became the beacon of hope, illuminating the path toward forgiveness and redemption. It was joy grounded in the understanding that despite the trials and the tribulations, he remained faithful to his divine calling. Joseph's unwavering commitment to joy during excruciating difficult times and temptation exemplifies the transforming power of maintaining a connection with God in his guidance to the Holy Spirit, allowing joy to serve as a steadfast companion through life's most challenging moments. Joy, crucial if you're going to win the difficulties of life. But joy leads us to things to a place that we don't think it is to unthinkable places. Joy restore the power of forgiveness in our lives. Man, joy can restore relationships through forgiveness. Look what happened in Genesis chapter 50, verses 15 through 21. I'm summarizing here. Now, that their father was dead, Jacob was dead, Joseph's brothers became fearful. They started freaking out. Joseph had been trading us nice all this time because dad is alive. Now that dad is gone, he's gonna definitely make us pay for all the things we have done to him. We lied about him. We lied to him. We beat him. We sold him. He became slave. He's gonna come back and bite. He's gonna get it back to us. He's holding a grudge for all this time. His wrath is going to come upon us. And now he's a king in Egypt. So he's not a king, but he's way up there in Egypt. He can do whatever he wants with us. So these guys are freaking out. Dad is gone. Our protection is gone. Joseph's going to pay. He's going to have payback right now. Now Joseph will show his anger and pay us back for all the wrong we did to him, they said. But Joseph replied, "Don't be afraid of me. Am I God that I can punish you? You intended to harm me, but God intended all for good. He brought me to this position so I could save the lives of many people. No, don't be afraid. I'll continue to care. I'll continue to care. I'll continue to take care of you and your children." So he reassured them by speaking kindly to them. As Joseph's journey unfolded, culminating in a poignant reunion with his brothers, the narrative of forgiveness and joy in his life become a guiding light for generations to come, for you and I. In forgiving his brothers, Joseph demonstrated a profound understanding of the transformative power of joy, intertwined with the act of letting go and extending forgiveness. Obedience. Blessing follows obedience. Joy is a fruit of those blessings. And blessed people forgive. Joseph's joy was not merely a fleeting emotion tied to the present moment of reunion. Instead, it was rooted in a deep spiritual awareness and recognition of God's redemptive plan woven in the tapestry of his suffering. Do you believe right now that whatever you dream that has been fulfilled, or whatever you want that hasn't been fulfilled, or whatever difficulty you're going through right now, do you believe that God has a redemptive plan woven through the difficulties that you're going through right now in your life? What is stealing your joy? What is your dreams that has been not fulfilled yet? Do you believe that through the difficulties that you're going through right now, God's redemptive plan is woven into that tapestry of it all? In forgiving his brothers, Joseph acknowledged that the pain of the past had a purpose, leading to a great narrative of healing and reconciliation orchestrated by a divine hand. In the context of our 21st century lives, Joseph's story resonates as a timeless lesson on the enduring relevance of joy and forgiveness. The complexity of modern life often mirrors the trials faced by Joseph, where betrayal and hardship and the weight of the past mistakes that we have made can burden our souls. We must embrace the understanding that joy is not merely an emotion, but a deliberate choice, a journey toward an inner peace and reconciliation. Choosing joy in the current landscape of our world is inseparable from the practice of forgiveness. Let me say that again. Choosing joy in the current landscape of our world is inseparable from the practice of forgiveness. The fast-paced, interconnected nature of our 21st century world often leaves individuals grappling with the shadows of their past, hindering personal growth and collective harmony. In this context that we find ourselves in today, embracing joy requires us to be conscious in this decision to forgive and to release the grip of resentment and open our hearts up to the possibilities of transformation and redemption that only Jesus Christ can bring. And he does that through joy. Joy plus forgiveness then becomes the conduit, the means, the avenue for deep healing and restoring in our world today, which is what Joseph experienced. It is a recognition that joy is not a solitary pursuit, but is intricately connected to our ability to forgive and to let go. In forgiving, we are unburdening ourselves from the chains of bitterness, allowing the light of joy to illuminate our path toward wholeness and reconciliation. Joy. Joy is key for our well-being. The opposite of joy is bitterness. And bitterness comes to us because we are unwilling to forgive those who have hurt us, those who have let us down. Bitterness comes because we can forgive ourselves, not as in we can forgive and go to heaven. No. We have to give us allowance to mess up at times. Bitterness comes into our lives because we don't understand that through it all, God is working his redemptive plan and transformative plan to your life. So we must unburden ourselves from the chains of bitterness, allowing the light of joy to illuminate our path toward wholeness and reconciliation. Joseph's story transcends time, offering a blueprint for navigating the complexity of human relationships and personal struggles. In the 21st century, as we grapple with the challenges of forgiveness, Joseph's journey stands as a testament to the enduring truth that true joy is often found in the courageous act of letting go, embracing forgiveness, and allowing the transformative power of God's redemptive plan to unfold in our lives. In the life of Joseph, we see a powerful example of finding joy in the journey, even when circumstances seem dire. Joseph's unwavering faith, obedience, and forgiveness brought him to a place of fulfillment and blessing. And the Advent season, this one reminds us that like Joseph, we too can find joy in the midst of life's trials when we trust in God's divine plan. As we reflect on Joseph's journey and the Advent theme of joy, let's remember, joy is not a fleeting emotion. It's a profound experience of contentment and gladness that comes from walking in God's purpose. May we seek joy in our obedience, forgiveness, and unwavering faith, just as Joseph did in the season of Advent. May we find joy not only in the anticipation of Christ's birth, but also in the acknowledgement that our Savior is with us and for us every step of the way.